Most men think being favored by God means comfort, luck, and ease. But what if the truth is darker than that? What if being favored means being tested, stripped, and forged in silence? The ancient thinkers warned us, the men chosen for strength are not spared by life, they are shaped by it. If these 4 signs define your life, then whether you asked for it or not, you are walking the path of a man set apart. Sign 1. Life refuses to let you stay weak. From early on, something becomes clear. Comfort never stays with us for long. Just when we think we've earned rest, life introduces resistance. When we begin to soften, pressure arrives. When we avoid responsibility, responsibility finds us anyway. This pattern is not random, it is formative. Men favored by a higher order are rarely allowed to decay in ease. While others drift through distraction, pleasure, and emotional indulgence, we are pulled back into discipline again and again. Not because we are cursed, but because we are not permitted to become small. Epictetus spoke plainly about this. He argued that difficulty is not an obstacle to character, but the instrument through which character is revealed. Just as fire tests steel, hardship exposes what a man truly is. A favored man is not spared the fire. He is trusted with it. We notice this truth when life blocks our escapes. When we seek numbness, it fails us. When we chase shortcuts, they collapse. When we try to avoid growth, discomfort increases. It is as if life itself refuses to cooperate with our weakness. This is not cruelty, this is correction. Marcus Aurelius wrote that what stands in the way becomes the way. For most people, obstacles are optional detours. For us, they are mandatory roads. Loss, rejection, isolation, and pressure do not arrive to destroy us. They arrive to shape us into men who can carry weight without breaking. There is a quiet intelligence behind this process. A higher order does not waste suffering. Every challenge arrives with precision, time to expose impatience, arrogance, fear, or emotional instability. Each hardship strips away what cannot survive pressure. What remains is what matters. We begin to understand that being favored does not mean being protected from pain. It means being protected from stagnation. Comfort is dangerous to a man who is meant to lead himself. Ease breeds entitlement. Struggle breeds clarity. Seneca warned that adversity is the training ground of the great. He observed that men who are never tested never meet themselves. That is why favored men are repeatedly pushed into situations where excuses fail and character must speak. This is also why emotional weakness becomes unbearable for us. Rage, self-pity, and impulsive reactions cost too much. Life corrects us quickly when we indulge them. Consequences arrive fast. Lessons repeat until learned. The margin for emotional chaos is small because the standard is high, and slowly something changes. We stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" We start asking, "What is this demanding of me?" This shift marks the beginning of self-mastery. To be favored is not to be coddled, it is to be refined. The pressure we face is evidence that more is expected of us. Life is not trying to crush us. It is carving away everything that cannot stand the weight of who we are becoming. If life refuses to let you remain weak, it is because weakness is not your destiny. Sign 2. You are repeatedly separated from the crowd. One of the quiet patterns we begin to notice is this: we never fully belong to the crowd for long. Even when surrounded by people, there is a sense of distance. Even when accepted, there is an inner pull away. Friendships fade, circles dissolve, paths quietly diverge. At first this feels like loss, like rejection, like being misunderstood, but over time we realize something unsettling and liberating. Separation is not punishment, it is preparation. Men favored by a higher order are rarely allowed to drown in collective noise. While others find comfort in consensus, we find friction. Small talk drains us. Group thinking irritates us. Social rituals feel hollow. It is not arrogance, it is alignment. Our inner compass refuses to point toward distraction. Marcus Aurelius warned against becoming one of the many. He believed the crowd pulls men toward emotional excess, vanity, and imitation. To remain disciplined, a man must regularly withdraw, not out of hatred for people, but out of loyalty to his own reason. This is why isolation keeps returning to us. Sometimes it arrives through circumstances, relocation, betrayal, loss, or life transitions that quietly remove people from our path. Other times it comes internally, a growing intolerance for gossip, drama, and performative emotions. What once entertained us now exhausts us. We begin to value silence more than approval. Epictetus taught that freedom begins the moment we stop outsourcing our judgment to others. A favored man cannot afford borrowed opinions. He must hear his own thoughts clearly, and clarity demands space. This separation sharpens perception. Alone we see patterns we missed. We recognize emotional manipulation. We hear the difference between impulse and reason. We observe our own weaknesses without distraction. Solitude becomes a mirror, sometimes uncomfortable, always honest. The world often labels this withdrawal as coldness or superiority, but Stoic thinkers understood it as self-preservation. Seneca wrote that crowds are dangerous not because they are evil, but because they dilute virtue. Surrounded by noise, discipline softens. Among many voices, wisdom whispers. And so life keeps removing us from environments that would weaken us. Not permanently, but repeatedly. Each separation strips away dependency. Each ending teaches us to stand alone without bitterness. We learn to enjoy our own company without turning hard. We become calm without becoming cold. This is not loneliness. It is refinement. A favored man is not meant to disappear into society. He is meant to return to it with strength, not need. The time apart is where discipline is forged, emotions are mastered, and identity becomes unshakable. If you find yourself repeatedly separated from the crowd, not by choice, but by circumstance, do not rush to fill the silence. That silence is shaping you. The crowd is loud, the path is quiet, and quiet is where strong men are made. Sign 3. Your life forces you to master your emotions early. One of the clearest signs that we are being shaped for something higher is this. Life does not allow us the luxury of emotional chaos. While others are permitted to explode, blame, and spiral without consequence, we are corrected immediately. Every emotional mistake costs us. Relationships strain, opportunities close, inner peace disappears. And so we learn early, emotions must be governed, not obeyed. At first this feels unfair. Why do others get to vent, rage, complain, and collapse, while we must remain composed? Why are we expected to carry weight quietly? Why does life seem to demand maturity from us long before we feel ready? The Stoics recognized this pattern. Epictetus taught that the untrained mind believes events cause suffering, while the trained mind knows suffering comes from judgment. A favored man is pushed into this realization early. Life becomes his instructor, strict, relentless, and precise. Every emotional outburst becomes a lesson. Every reaction reveals a weakness. We begin to notice a pattern. Anger never serves us. Resentment poisons our judgment. Jealousy drains our strength. Self-pity delays action. The cost of indulgence is too high, so we adapt. This is not emotional suppression. It is emotional transmutation. Seneca wrote that uncontrolled emotion is a form of slavery, and slavery is incompatible with favor. A man entrusted with greater responsibility must first demonstrate inner order. Chaos within eventually creates chaos without. So life pressures us to become calm while others remain reactive. We learn to pause before speaking, to observe feelings without becoming them, to breathe through anger instead of acting on it. We discover that emotions are signals, not commands. This is not natural at first. It is trained through repeated discomfort. And the training is rarely gentle. Disappointment teaches patience. Betrayal teaches detachment. Loss teaches impermanence. Each experience tightens our emotional discipline like a blade sharpened against stone. What once triggered us now barely moves us. not because we are numb, but because we are anchored. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that people act from ignorance, not malice. When we internalize this, resentment loosens its grip. We stop demanding that the world behave differently. Instead, we refine our response. This emotional mastery creates a quiet power. We become the calm presence in chaotic rooms, the steady mind in crisis, the man others rely on when emotions run high. Without seeking authority, we embody it. Without demanding respect, we earn it. And slowly, we realize the truth. This discipline is protection. Uncontrolled emotion ruins men. It leads them into impulsive decisions, broken bonds, wasted years. We are spared not by comfort, but by early correction. Life refuses to let us self-destruct quietly. If you have been forced to mature emotionally before your time, if anger never serves you, if emotional indulgence always costs you, if composure feels non-negotiable, do not resent it. You are being trained. Because strength without control is danger, and favor is never given to the dangerous, only to the disciplined. Sign 4. You are repeatedly isolated to strengthen your inner authority. One of the most misunderstood signs of favor is this. We are repeatedly pulled away from people, noise, and familiar attachments, not once, but many times. Friendships fade, social circles collapse, paths diverge without dramatic conflict. And suddenly we find ourselves alone, not because we failed socially, but because solitude keeps choosing us. At first, this isolation feels like punishment. We ask why connection never stays easy, why we outgrow rooms so quickly, why familiarity begins to suffocate us. Others seem to thrive in crowds while we feel drained by them. The silence becomes loud, uncomfortable, and confronting. But this pattern is not accidental. The Stoics understood solitude as a forge. Marcus Aurelius withdrew inward even while ruling an empire. Epictetus taught that a man must first become sufficient unto himself before he can stand unshaken among. Favor does not begin in applause, it begins in independence. Isolation strips away borrowed identities. When no one is watching, no one is validating, no one is guiding, we are forced to listen to something deeper. Our values clarify, our standards sharpen, our dependence on external approval weakens. What once felt like loneliness slowly transforms into self-command. This is how inner authority is built. In solitude, we confront uncomfortable truths. We notice which desires were inherited, not chosen, which fears were fueled by comparison, which ambitions were shaped by applause rather than purpose. Without distraction, these illusions collapse. Seneca wrote that a wise man is content with himself, yet ready for companionship. This distinction matters. We are not being trained to reject others. We are being trained not to need them. The isolation teaches restraint. We learn to sit with boredom without escaping into excess, to endure silence without filling it with noise, to face uncertainty without panicking. This is rare strength. Most men flee solitude because it exposes their lack of inner structure. We are forced to build that structure, and once it is built, we are no longer easily influenced. We stop chasing acceptance. We stop explaining ourselves. We stop reshaping our values to fit rooms that were never meant to hold us. Our presence becomes selective, intentional, grounded. This inner authority changes how others respond to us. We speak less, but with weight. We listen more, but tolerate less nonsense. We no longer argue to be understood. We act in alignment and let outcomes speak. Without trying to dominate, we naturally command respect. This is why isolation comes in cycles. Just when we grow comfortable, life pulls us back again, deeper, quieter, more focused. Each return to solitude refines us further. Each separation removes another layer of dependence. And one day, we notice something profound. We are no longer afraid of being alone. At that moment, isolation stops feeling like loss. It becomes freedom. The world can no longer threaten us with abandonment because we are already complete. If solitude keeps finding you, if crowds exhaust you, if separation keeps sharpening you rather than breaking you, do not fight it. You are being prepared. Because a man who cannot stand alone cannot be trusted with influence, and favor is reserved for those whose strength does not require witnesses.